Hi, my friends. Welcome back. It's been a while. I have been on YouTube for a while, actually. I think it was last week, maybe the week before. I was on doing a tutorial. I've been very unwell the past week, very sick. I picked up a virus or a bug or something, and I've been out of action for the whole week. I've been very sick. I'm only just starting to feel better this morning. So I was going to just try a nice little painting for you because I know a lot of people are waiting to see tutorials. Um, so I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. I miss painting. I miss it deeply. So I'm going to try a nice little Irish scene. It's an Irish cottage. Um, it's a beautiful kind of very old Irish cottage, and I'm going to put in like a clothesline with some clothes hanging and stuff like that. Something very eye-catching, something just to kind of invite you into the painting and take a closer look. So I'm going to try something like that this week. Thank you for being so patient with me. I have a lot of people looking for Zoom lessons as well. I'm trying to get through them as fast as I can. I have a big list of clients looking for Zoom lessons. So if you're one of those waiting for Zoom lessons, I do apologize for the delay. There's a big list there and I'm trying to get through them as quick as I can. And I don't like to be rushing. You have to kind of set aside a certain time each week for Zooming. If you're doing it yourself, and you have to be prepared, and you know everything has to go in order. You cannot just sit down and start Zooming with someone. You have to prepare everything. So I have a long list and I'm doing Zooming every week, so I'm trying to get through them as quickly as I can. So I apologize if it's taking a bit longer than expected, but it is worth it, I promise. All right, let's go and have a bit of fun with this painting. It's going to be a nice painting. 16 by 12 canvas. I must clean my palette and put on some fresh colour. So I'll be right back and we'll try this lovely little Irish scene. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Right, so here we go. This is the canvas I just finished sketching. This is my palette. I'll tell you what I have. Titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, burnt sienna, phaylo blue, magenta, lamp black, cadmium red, and burnt umber. There's a reference photograph there. Can you see that? Okay, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I saw this and I just thought I had to paint it. It just has a beautiful perspective and lovely colours. So I think we have a bit of fun with the palette knife in this one. So let's start. Now I did a quick sketch. You could see that, just a rough outline. My canvas is upright, 16 by 12. I'm going to do a nice dark grey sky, a nice rich, cloudy Irish sky. Bit of phthalo blue and some black. And lots of white. Let's put a lot of white in there. Don't be shy with the white. I'm going to add to this a little touch of magenta because I want warm hues in this. I want a warm kind of a sky. So I don't want it very cold. I might take a touch of sienna even as well. That'll help warm it just slightly. So we have a nice dark kind of a warm grey. See that? Actually, I'm thinking let's try a touch of cadmium red as well. I think that's better, yes. If you look closely at the reference photograph, if you download the photograph and take a look, you will see there's a hint of a pinkish colour going through the clouds. You may not see it from where you are on the screen because I know the reference photograph can be quite small, but I can see it here. There's like a hint of a pinkiness going through some of the clouds, just some of them. But yeah, look, let's just have a bit of fun with it, if anything else. I'm looking forward to using the palette knife for this one, especially with that thatched roof. It's going to be very, very nice, I think. I'm going to just start going into some white as we come up. And I'm being, this kind of a sky now is very loose. It's just a very loose sky, really. I'm going to take more white and a touch of Naples yellow in there. I'm going to pop that in, up there, spread that all the way across. And of course, you can just put in whatever kind of a sky you like as well. Whatever you prefer. You could just put a plain, nice, bright blue sky in here, by all means. It's up to yourself, really. This is one of those kind of skies where you can just do what you like. No pressure. Right, so I'm just going to give my brush a quick clean on the tissue just to get most of that colour out. I'm going to take some phaylo blue and some white. And into this, I just want to put a hint of almost like a blue sort of popping through here and there in the sky. You can see that bit of blue just popping through. Look, we don't have to go absolutely crazy, but there's just a little bit there, just to give it a little bit of effect. Some brightness kind of breaking through the clouds up there. Let's go for another little bit, a bit more blue. So you can see there's a bit of lightness coming through the sky as it goes across to the left. I'm going to clean my brush again, rub it on some tissue, and I'm going to go into some cadmium red and a little Naples yellow. Very much kind of staying with the pinky side. You see that? A little bit of pink. We'll pop a little bit of pink up there. I'm just going to push it through some of the cloud here and there. I will be softening this then all together later on. So, you know, just try not to be too precise with all of this. The last thing I'm going to do is, let me think. Let me just think for a moment now. I am going to soften. I think I'll soften all of this together. Let me get a nice clean fan brush. Okay, it's a regular cheap fan brush. I'm just going to use that to kind of soften the brush strokes out very gently, keeping the direction and all the kind of marks, but I'm softening it all together. Use any kind of a brush you like. There, isn't that nice now? So far, it's a little bit of colour up in the sky. And what I'm going to do next, this is the fun part, I like this. I'm going to take a small palette knife. I'm just going to grab a little touch of titanium white and a touch of Naples yellow. And I do want to just add a little touch of light popping through some of the clouds up there. And I'm simply just going to literally scrape it onto what I have. These won't even be solid clouds. I'm going to soften all of these in with my palette knife. It's really just to create a hint of light catching some of the clouds. That's all I want to do, really. Kind of scrape it around in circles and just literally add little touches of colour hitting some cloud here and there. You can kind of get the idea. It's just very loose. It's a very loose kind of a painting, this. And these are the types of paintings I like to do. I'm not going to go any further, really. I really want to keep this so simple. I'm just going to sort of drag the fan brush around in sort of different directions just to create a bit of movement, you see. Just flick it around and allow the paint to just fizzle out and go its own way. Do you understand what I mean? Just let the paint go where it wants to go. That's it. I'm done with the sky. Finished. We don't need to go into any detail with skies or anything like that. So I'm going to put this brush away. I'm going to switch to my medium to large kind of a stubby brush. The next thing I'm going to do is fill in this roof. Let's get some sienna and some Naples yellow. I have a tiny touch of turpentine in my brush just to soften out the colours, and a touch of burnt umber as well. I'll start with, let me have a look. Okay, I'm going to start with that. For me, the secret when painting a building like this sort of a roof, is to just try and capture some, what would I say, some variance in the colours. So what a lot of people would probably do in this is they just paint the entire roof one colour, but I like to create a kind of a darkness on one side of a roof Whatever kind of a roof it is, if it's a flat tiled roof or whatever, something like that, for instance, a lot of people will just go for a solid colour. But I think it's much nicer for me, I find, having a bit of varied colour going through it. So even having one side slightly darker than the other side makes the world of difference, I promise. It's something you should try. It's good practice. Now this is just an undercoat, really. It's a base coat, if you like. I'm just grabbing colours with my brush directly. Look, a little bit of burnt umber. And the most important thing with this is to follow the direction of your roof or your building, whichever you're painting. Follow that direction so you can see they're coming at an angle. That gives you that shape already. If you're going to be painting sideways like this, it's just going to look flat and just not right. Let me take a touch of black, pop a little black in there. Look, just scrape it sideways, side to side. And you could do this with any kind of a roof. If it's a barn, for instance, it would be absolutely fine as well. And I'm going to take a little bit of crimson and, magenta and black, just to put a bit of a cool shady colour in here. And I'm going to kind of soften it down. So I'm not copying the colours exactly as they are on the photograph. You can do that if you like. But I'm not a big fan of copying everything exactly. I think just add a little bit of your own is a nice way to do it. A little bit of burnt sienna, look, just pop a little sienna in there, like that. And as well, don't have the top completely flat. Look, you can go up and down with the roof. It adds a bit of character to the building, I think. Now, how's that? You see? So far, we have a nice gradient there, going from a dark to a light. And the next thing I'm going to do is, this is the fun part again, palette knife. I'm going to get my flat palette knife. I'm going to take some burnt sienna and some Naples yellow. I'm not going to mix these too much. And perhaps a touch of burnt umber just to soften the colour down ever so slightly. Or even, you know what, even a touch of black, look. The tiniest touch of black, just to soften it down ever so gently. I want a soft straw kind of a colour, a kind of a muddy straw colour. I don't want to go too vibrant with this. And I'm just going to simply scrape that on, look. Just add a little bit of texture. And this is a great way of doing thatched roofs and things like that. It's just a nice, simple way to give you that effect of the thatch coming down. You can do as much or as little of this as you like. You don't have to if you don't want to. I just think it adds a nice effect. I really do. It's a fun way to do it. It just adds plenty of texture onto a roof like this, rather than it being just a flat colour. If you're painting barns, especially barns, of course, timber barns, you could do this upright. If you're doing a timber barn, gives a beautiful effect of, a natural effect of the wood. But I'm just going to go like this now, just out the painting and just have a bit of fun. Okay, even now it looks very nice, doesn't it? I'm going to take now some Naples yellow and a touch of cadmium yellow. I just want to add a hint of a yellowiness into some of it, especially on the light side over here. I just want to add a tiny touch of that yellowy hint through the thatch. It does have a beautiful, I mean, you could even, I might even add a little hint of an orangey colour as well, actually, come to think of it. That would be nice as well, wouldn't it? How about we try that? I'll take a hint of cadmium yellow and a touch of cadmium red. Give those a good mix, come on. And then maybe a touch of Naples again. That'll just sort of, the Naples yellow always kind of dulls down the colour slightly, and it takes the vibrancy out of the colour, just ever so slightly. But it's a lovely, lovely colour to add. This will make for a nice, almost like a knife painting, I think. And lastly, but not least, let me just kind of rough it up just a little bit more now, a little bit more varied. Get these angles just a little bit more of a rougher kind of an angle, so it's not all just the same all the way along. You know, just kind of move them around. And then I'm going to take some burnt umber with a hint of black and just kind of add a little bit of that, maybe a hint of magenta as well, actually. We'll just add some of that colour, that kind of a dark shade along here. And even use the flat of your knife as well, just to drag that colour across. I'm only using small amounts of colour, all right? You can go crazy and put on loads and loads of colour if you like, but I think small amounts is probably best early on. I don't want to overload my roof too soon, because we can always add more later. Remember that. There, that's not a bad little thatched roof now, is it? So I'll stand back and have a quick look. That's a nice little texture on that roof. I like that. I really like that. I'm very happy. So much fun doing these kinds of paintings. It really, really is. I'll go back to my medium flat brush, and I'm going to go with the white of this. First of all, I'm going to just take a small pointy brush, and I'm going to put a thick band of white just at the end, and perhaps we'll do the chimneys as well. How about that? So look, let's go thick band of white on the end like that. And of course, it's not going to be completely straight or anything like that. It's going to have a little bit of a wiggly line, because remember, this is a very old cottage. It's here probably 200 years longer, 300 years. So don't be too perfect with your lines, look. Just a little dab of the brush. And we have another one around here. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just pop it in. Comes down like that. And fill that in. And already that's looking okay, isn't it? It's a very kind of, this type of painting is something that you can really be very loose with. It's not something you really have to concentrate and try and get absolutely perfect, you know what I mean? It's one of those kinds of paintings you can just take your time, enjoy it, have a bit of fun, and pop a little bit of lighter white just maybe on the front here. Then get a very small pointy brush, add a little touch of dark. Let's go for a little burnt umber. Thick paint I'm using now, yes, lots of thick paint, you see that? Just like that, maybe even a hint of black. And just ruffle up the edges just a tiny, tiny little bit. And also, just around on the top, I'm going to add a little tiny bit of dark grey to suggest some dodgy, let's say they're dodgy little stones and they're not the best, not in the best shape. A little bit of darkness just here and there. If anything, it just adds a little bit of interest to the painting, doesn't it? And I won't make it too straight on top either, look, just a little bit. Now I don't see any chimney pots on this, but I might just put a suggestion of one, a little bit of a one on top, like that. Okay, that's it. We don't need to worry about loads of little details on this one. So that's it. Now I'm going to go to my medium stubby and put in this. I'm going to start just with a load of white, look. Finish that and just wiggle it along. And even though I picked up some of the roof colour, you see that? Don't worry about it, just give it a rub on your brush and your tissue, and away you go again. This is one of those paintings where there are no kind of rules as such. It's just about really having some fun, I think. For me, I think anyway, it's just about having some fun. I'm going to mix up a tiny mauvey colour, and I'm going to put in a tiny bit of a mauve, a bluey kind of a mauve, just along here, like this. Because you'll see coming down towards the end of the cottage, there's this kind of a pinkish hue. Probably just kind of the reflection from the sun or the plants or whatever. It's a bit of a kind of a bouncing reflection on the cottage itself. I'll take a tiny bit of brown and a bit of black, make a bit of grey. I'm just going to pop a little bit of that in there, just to darken it slightly. I'm just kind of building up right now, building up the suggestion of the very old kind of stonework and all that kind of stuff. Then I'll soften that in, because although you'll see there's lots of stonework on the building, it's quite soft, isn't it? It doesn't really kind of show until it gets to the front here. So I have, now let's stop and take a look. I have that much done. I'm going to apply a small shadow under the eave of the roof. A little bit of that grey kind of a colour there. I'm going to put a tiny bit of suggestion of a little bit of a shadow just under the eave of the roof. And this will help us later. You'll see why. I know there's not one on the photograph, but we can make one. We can put one in. I'm just going to soften that down. I'm softening everything. Soften it in. And if we want to go a little tiny bit darker, we can. And before I do any more, I'm simply just going to finish the end of the roof. Just kind of, I want it to come down just over that kind of a shadow, okay? I just wanted to break that line. I don't want a solid kind of a sharp line just there. I want all of this to sort of come down over the wall, to look like the roof is coming down and actually covering the wall. So I'm just going to scrape along that line, scrape my colour, my yellowy colour down over that. And it doesn't have to be perfect, all right? Remember, just remember that. You can be here for hours trying to perfect all of this, but don't. Just, I think that's enough. I'm happy enough with that. The next thing I'm going to do is, with this little flat brush and some fresh white paint, I'm now just going to go along. In fact, you know what I'll do first, actually? I beg your pardon now, I do apologise. I'm going to just sketch in my door. I grab some cadmium red and a touch of black perhaps. And I just want to sketch in where that red door is. It's just kind of around here, isn't it? I'm just going to pop that in. And this will probably take a few turns to get right. You can't just rub off the white. I could have just rubbed off the white with some tissue paper if in the beginning, but look, all right, we made a small mistake, but it's no harm. We just keep going. We can add more and more to this later. no problem. Don't be worried about little mistakes. Just keep going over it until we get what we need. I'm going to take some black and I'm going to just add a bit of black, maybe with a bit of brown along the bottom. And I'm going to just kind of soften it up very gently. You can see it's kind of a dirty colour at the bottom, isn't it? And just in at this side, there's a bit of a shadow coming from the wall. Now, if you really want to go to town with this, you could just grab a palette knife and stick some on with a palette knife, look. So that's one. Then we have a little window, don't we? We have a couple of small windows. Let's pop in a few small little windows here and there. They're little red shutters on the windows, aren't they? And we have a little one off in the distance as well. We have one just around, say, here. And we have another one just barely showing over here. Okay, and the very important thing about this is the angle. We need to come down at an angle like this to show the perspective. All right, that'll help. That will really help with the perspective on the window. And again, I'm going to add some burnt umber, a touch of sienna even, just to this side, and soften it across. That just again gives you some tone from one side to the next, so it's getting darker as it goes in by the reveal of the window. That's how it kind of works. So a little bit of a dark just in there by the window, soften it out, another touch of it just there, and I can go again, maybe just in here, look. So we have a little bit of a shadow on one side of this window. So if you notice, right now it just looks very flat, doesn't it? We need to put a little touch of a shadow on one side of these, just to give it a 3D effect, if you know what I mean. And that just gives you that kind of 3D effect. I'll put another one at this side because we're looking from the back of the cottage, the back side looking out, so you're going to see all of these little reveals, so to speak, in the sides of the walls where they kind of turn around. Maybe a little small one there, tiny one there. And I'll add a touch of a light colour just to this one here. And a touch of light coming down here. All of this will make sense in the end, okay? I promise. And it disappears up into the thatch. And don't worry, I will finish the thatch again. I will kind of come down just along the edge and run the thatch down over this. For example, look, let me try it. Let me show you. Could bring a little bit out like that. You see, just sort of covering the windows. It's almost kind of just disappearing into the windows, isn't it? The thatch just gets lost in there. There. Does it not look much better now? It really does. The next job I want to do is with some white and a touch of Naples yellow. I just want to add a little effect of stonework. Just here and there, I just want to pop a couple of little blobs with the side of the brush, just to suggest that there is bits of stone work on the wall. It's just, I don't want to be leaving a kind of a flat surface. A little bit of a stone effect would be nice. Just pop it on and stick it on with our kind of a small flat brush on edge. Now already that looks quite nice, doesn't it? I'm quite happy with that so far. I may even add some smoke to the chimney tops later on. That's something we can do later. I'll take my small little pointy brush, some white, and add a suggestion of some brighter stones in between, just here and there, look. And I'm rolling on lots of thick paint. You see the way the edges of the paint are rising up from the canvas? That's a nice effect. It just gives you that nice realistic kind of a look, as if it's actual stones sticking off of the canvas. I like them kind of effects. Impasto techniques, I suppose you could call it. Yeah, but it's nice. You see, that's quite nice though, isn't it? It's only an impression at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be perfect. And one last thing I will do with my pointy brush is take a little tiny bit of black, right? And with plenty of turpentine on this, try and get a nice point on your brush. This is not the best brush now, it's not the best quality. We'll pop a couple of little lines, just to suggest maybe the outlines of a few small, tiny outlines of some of these stones. You see what I mean? It just adds a little something to it, doesn't it? I'm going to just sort of mess up the edge of this just a little bit as well, look. Just to bring that in. Perhaps a little touch of light there. Let's move on. So I think we've done enough for the cottage for now. Oh, there's one little piece there I wanted to fix. A little bit of pink line there. Just fix that. I'm going to finish in all of this. I'm going to fill that in. I go for a nice dark, muddy colour. So let's get a dark, muddy colour. A little bit of burnt umber, burnt sienna, a bit of black, and a touch of Naples yellow just to soften that back. There we go. That's all we need. Nice little muddy colour. Down the side of the cottage, like that. And what I'm going to do off in the distance there, okay, I'm just going to take a dry brush, a dry rough brush. This is a nice technique to use on landscapes, just to create some distance. I'm going to dab that into the sky, look. So, as if there's little trees or bushes way off in the distance, and it's disappearing off into the sky. Away you go. Dab it, just dab it down. Keep going all the way down. Already, you've that nice hazy effect, haven't you? So let's come down, let's just fill this in quickly. For me, the hard part is done, which is the cottage, okay? Everything else after this is fairly straightforward. You can have a bit of fun with the rest of this. So let's have some fun. Let's get a fan brush. Nice. Middle of the road fan brush. I think that's the only one I have, is it? Let me see, have I got a softer one? I have a softer one here, look. That might be a bit better. I'm going to start with a darker colour. A dry fan brush, a bit of burnt umber, a little bit of sienna, and I'm going to just start adding some texture onto all this. And look, it's just simply dab, 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 and leave it just sort of fizzle off into the distance, disappear. We just want to add a bit of texture into all of this. Doesn't that look like texture already? Like a rough ground. And you can go look up into your cottage as well. Make sure the lines are not completely straight. So you have bits of grass and all that kind of stuff, look, just along the edge. I will add a hint of green here and there. So I'll take some cadmium yellow with the burnt umber. Just that tiny hint of a greenish, mossy kind of a finish. Then I'm going to go nice and dark. Burnt sienna and black. A little bit of turpentine in this one to help it flow a bit better. And I'm going to come across here, just from the bottom up, just add touches of darkness. Across the corner, look. We don't want a sharp kind of a pointy edge down at the bottom here. So push some in, push a little bit into the corner of the building. Take a little bit of black again, some sienna, pop a little bit of growth over there. Okay, now I did come a bit far down with this, didn't I? This is the wall. Not to worry. Sure, it's only a bit of paint, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's no big deal. It's just a bit of paint. So I'll clean my fan brush just very quickly. I'm going to take out some Naples yellow. I may be going a little quickly for you. I do apologise. I just want to show you how easy it can be just to create a simple, nice little scene. Sometimes it's the easiest thing just to grab a couple of rough brushes and just have a bit of fun. Do you understand what I mean? So I just want to show you that, really. You don't have to sit for hours at a canvas to create a nice painting. You can just, sometimes the quickest way is the best way. And that's when you have your most fun, and you will be actually very, very surprised with the results. Sometimes that's when it really works out best. Put a little step in here. Like that. And let's add a little touch of colour to that. A bit of a light pink to some of that, just to create a little bit of an uprise, like that there. It's very, very loose, all of this. Okay, now we do have a bike here, don't we? I'm not going to put a bike in. I'm going to put a nice little clothesline across here with some shirts and trousers and things hanging off of it. I think that will really make the difference with this painting, rather than just a bike. The bike is lovely, but I would rather something like a clothesline. I'm going to start putting in these stones. I'll take some white, and I just want to cut across all of this. Like that. Fill that in. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect at all. Okay, let's just fill that in there like that. Could have a slightly darker colour at the back of this. It's kind of a greeny, has a greeny hue, doesn't it? Very dark greeny kind of a hue. Dirty kind of stones. That's the sort of colour I'm looking for. I pop a little bit of black into that as well, and soften that through. And you can see how quickly I'm doing all of this. I'm not concentrating too much. I'm not thinking too much about colours and all that kind of stuff. I'm just grabbing some colour and going for it. And I know that may be easier said than done, but honestly, try not to think too much about what you're doing, because if you start sitting and thinking, it just becomes so difficult. It really does. Just try to keep it nice and straightforward. I'm just simply getting my outlines ready. That's basically what I'm doing, just getting the outlines ready. And for example, I'm going to just cover a load of blacky colour in here. Some black, some phaylo blue, and a bit of cadmium yellow perhaps. We'll go for a blacky green in here. Okay, it's going to soften, it's going to come across to this one as well. Let's take some burnt umber in there. This could be a mound of greenery or a little bush or something like this later on. Nice little green, dark, blacky green bush. We can do that as well. But just getting the colour filled in really for me is the important piece. So I'll stop at that. The interesting part comes next. This is the fun part again with the palette knife. Now, firstly, I'm going to stop and stand back. Just take a quick look at that. I like that. That's quite nice. I'm going to grab some titanium white with my palette knife and simply start filling in some of the rocks, the blocks, the stones rather, up here. That's my first thing I want to do. Start filling all of these in. Just create some nice impressions of outlines of little stones. Like that, you see? It's just had a bit of fun. Don't be afraid. I'll do the same over here. And a little bit over here. And I'm just going to kind of let them almost disappear into the background as well. Just like that, you see? They almost disappear into the side of the house, don't they? Next, I am going to take a small detailed brush, nice little pointy brush. I'm going to get some brown and a bit of black. Plenty of turpentine on this. Maybe a hint of magenta. Just go for a little bit of colour in this. I want to get a nice dark line. And simply draw in the outline of some of these little stones. And I do want to do here. So you can see I'm just sort of improvising. I'm not really taking too much notice of the photograph. I'm just sort of, I'm going my own kind of way really with this. Sometimes it's a lot more fun to just go your own way. And you can end up with just much nicer results. And it doesn't look exactly like the photograph. It looks like a nice little painting, a proper painting. And that's what I try to achieve. I try not to paint something to make it look exactly like what I'm painting. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's nice to make a waterfall look exactly like the waterfall, or a tree exactly like the tree. But you know, sometimes, most of the time, I just I want to create a nice impression of a scene. And that's just what I want to try and do here. A little tiny bit, maybe just around here and there. Okay, I'll stop at that. The next thing I'm going to do is, again, take my fan brush. I'll take some black, lots of yellow. And there's a bit of turpentine in this now as well, alright? Go for plenty of turpentine. Let's pop a nice dark greeny colour in here. Look, softening it up into the wall. The secret is softening it into the wall. You see, going up slightly into the wall and letting the colours merge together. I find that's sometimes the nicest way to do it. Black, maybe take some cadmium red, add a bit of colour in there. Okay, you see that, just sort of having a bit of fun. Now I will take some cadmium yellow. I have a lot of yellow on my fan brush here now. Little chunks of yellow, and perhaps just pop suggestions of some of that little touch of greenery in here and there as well. Just rough it up, you see that? Just add a little touch of that green. Leaving it at that, I'm going to go on to this clothesline. I'm very anxious to get this clothesline in because I think it's going to come to life when we do this. So I'm taking a very dark colour, just a little tiny bit of colour on my brush. Where should we go? In front of this first window or in the middle? It's a tough one, isn't it? I think I'll go here. Put a little dab like that. And then go across like that. And let's just suggest a couple of little, I don't know, pegs, that kind of stuff. And maybe a suggestion of that little bit of rope just coming down like that. And it's tied onto the wall, isn't it? It could be tied onto the wall there with something, a little knot or something. But we don't have to show too much. So clothes, how do you paint clothes? I'll be honest, I've never painted clothes on a clothesline my entire life. I don't think I have anyway. I'm going to imagine what it might look like off the top of my head, and that's what this show is all about, imagination. Let's imagine we have a kind of, I think a splash of blue on that would really make an impact. So let's try to imagine we've a nice blue kind of a shirt, perhaps. So let's go. So the shirt will be hanging from the waist down, won't it? Like that. And then I imagine it would have the two arms swinging like that, just kind of hanging. Would that be correct? Please do tell me now if this is completely wrong. But at the end of the day, we're only here for a bit of fun. A shirt or something? I don't know. I don't know. Let's put in a nice bright coloured t-shirt. I think a t-shirt should be a little bit easier to paint, shouldn't it? You would think these things are very easy, but when it comes to doing it, it's a different story altogether, my friends. Okay, That's another little piece of a t-shirt or something. What about adding a touch of dark blue onto some of this? You know what they look like actually? Do you know what they look like to me? A pair of long johns. I know that's quite funny, but that's what I see when I look at these things. So maybe I'll just make this longer. Like that. Perhaps it's a pair of long johns. There's an old man living here, and he's an old guy, and he's trying to dry out his long johns out on the line. Isn't that funny? And we could put in another colour. Let's pop in a bit of Naples yellow, perhaps, for a bit of colour. Let's put in a little piece like that, and perhaps it's, don't know, maybe a bit of a shirt or something. I don't know. And I think perhaps a couple of dark suggestions of something. I don't know, maybe one or two stockings or something like that. I don't know. It's just an idea, my friends. It's just an idea. Now I'm thinking, should I have went a bit bigger and a bit broader with all of this? Should I have just made them a lot thicker and bigger? Do you understand what I mean? To make more of an impact? I think I could have. I think that blue is a little bit skimpy looking, isn't it? I think it needs a little bit more. Come on, let's give it a bit more. It looks like it's shriveled up slightly, isn't it? Maybe it's been washed and dried so many times, it's starting to shrivel up and become small. But nonetheless, let's add a little bit to it. So we don't know what they are. There could be anything. And last but not least, I'm thinking a towel. A little bit of a towel or something blowing in the wind. I'll then just add maybe one or two little details into all of this. So why not? So why not? Just one or two little details. This technique, this kind of impasto technique, I think it's very refreshing to use. It really is very refreshing. And I'm wondering, should I put a touch of smoke into that chimney top? I think it would make a lovely effect. Just to tell the viewer that there's somebody home. What do you think? A little bit of white, look, and it's going to mix with the sky colour then, you see. Take a little bit of white, and let me just make sure you can see all of this now quite plainly. And my camera is dropping slightly, isn't it? Let me just fix this. Do bear with me. There we are. Let's pop a little smoke in. A little bit of white paint on a dry brush, and very carefully, little swirls. And it gets bigger and bigger as it comes out. You follow? And we'll give it some direction so the wind is blowing it this way, look. And that's really all we need to do. I will just soften that then ever so gently with my fan brush, just kind of soften it outwards into the sky. And my friends, we're done. We are done. I don't need to put any more on. I think I'm happy enough with all of this. You can add little details. This is just, I think, a nice little idea for you to try. If you're even painting a barn, you could use this technique for painting very old barns and all that kind of thing. It's a lovely technique. It's just a very thick impasto technique. You should try it. It really is. It's a lovely way of creating nice, thick, chunky buildings and stonework and walls and all that kind of thing. Quite simple, just with a palette knife. So I will leave you with that, my friends, and thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed that. I think that's a nice little eye-catching scene. And there we go. I'll just turn the camera so you can see myself. And once again, thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate your support. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's nice to be finally back and painting again. It's been a while. I've been very sick recently, but I'm feeling much better now. Much better, even better since I painted this. So I'll see you very soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for your support over on Patreon. And I will see you all very, very shortly for another little oil painting on easy oil painting. I'll see you soon, and God bless.